Here we are then in St Cuthbert's Church near Halsall, just to the northwest of Liverpool, here in the northwest of England. I'm here with Warren from the Liverpool Diocese on this Church and Community Day. So let's just start with the first one then, Warren. What is it you're doing and who do you actually work for?
So I work for the Diocese of Liverpool with the Archdeacon's team, and I'm part of a project called helping parishes look at their long-term financial sustainability plans. So part of that is just getting out and about and seeing what we can do to be helpful and resource people.
So how do you help a church work out what that looks like for them? Because obviously this is a really old building. You've got much more new buildings. You've got churches that are in very urban communities or rural like this one. That's obviously going to look very different. So how do you help them work out what even are you? What can you do where you are?
Absolutely. Every church is going to be different. Every single church community I've worked with is very, very different. Part of it's about going in and listening to people and helping the church community to listen to their own community. So often, not so much here, but a lot of churches are really disconnected from the community around them. And so part of it is about helping with days like this or other community consultation processes to go out and listen. There's somebody whose work inspires me a lot. There's Reverend Dr. Barbara Glasson. She was president of the Methodist Union, and she often says that the mission of the church is to listen. And I think that's really, really important, to go out and listen and hear what's going on. And then you can start to see how can we fulfill people's needs and be as part of the community, not just going and say, this is what we're doing, you will do what we're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is true. And I've had lots of conversations, interviews on my show and whatever, but the one thing that comes out with the mental health crisis or addiction or whatever the struggle might be, or even not a struggle, it is such a powerful thing to ask a question of someone and then let them have the opportunity to respond and keep on listening after that first response.
Absolutely. There is something about open and honest questions. Someone once defined to me what an open and honest question was, which is a question that you do not know what the answer you're going to receive back. And I think that is a beautiful definition.
Yeah.
And if you're really listening, then you will be surprised at times. And it's not about having the answers, I think, most of the time. It's about really listening to people and hearing people. And to be heard and genuinely heard is a beautiful and godly thing.
I think, I've spoken to people about children and young people or adults, and we sort of almost blindly now, so where we're in a mental health crisis, we almost diminish the reality and the severity of that for an individual or for a family or a community. But actually, one of the most powerful things I really believe we can do from all the people I speak to is what I said before, it's actually allowing someone to speak. And then I don't mean actively listening like, I'm going to listen to you and nod my head. I mean actually taking the time to hear what they say, not with an agenda or to try and fix something, but just to listen for the sake of listening.
Yeah, because right in front of you is a child of God, and you listen to. And just is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Community Dan is here today. He's trying to help this particular church, St Cuthbert's in Halsall, to engage better with the community, for the community to engage better with the church. I was chatting to Susan, the rector here, talking about how this church has been standing in this spot for 900 years, which is, nearly 1,000 years, round it up a little bit, which is kind of amazing for me personally. I love old buildings like this, old churches, because there's history here and there's longevity here. What's your role in church? I mean, Dan's trying to get them to talk to each other in a sense, not that they weren't talking before, but to talk better. What would be your role here?
Part of it's been to help connect Dan up with the parish. So I met Dan quite randomly. I'd gone to a webinar on Zoom about old buildings in Scotland and how they're looking at alternative uses for some of the churches, with the Church of Scotland selling quite a few of their church buildings at the moment. And Dan was there, and I thought, his work sounds interesting, so I looked him up. I thought, actually, you know what, I think Dan's expertise could work really well to help this parish. So I connected them up, saw where it went. I'm paying the bill, not me personally, but, my budget. And so it's about connecting that up and bringing some... My role's been going out and talking and listening to parishes and what their need is. and then think, okay, how can we hook them up to people who've got some real expertise and real passion in this area, so that they can actually work together. So that's been really exciting.
I said this to Susan earlier, but the thing that I think people like Dan, or I mean, there's different people I've met who do a very different thing for churches, but it's the same end result of somebody externally coming in and saying, look, we can see this, we can see that, have you thought about doing this, and what do you think about that? And actually that external input of a question from someone who's neutral, who doesn't get to benefit from the church doing stuff or not, that can be really potent. What have you seen between particularly Community Dan and St Cuthbert's here? Where have you think, oh, that's genius, that?
Yeah, well, I think what really struck me coming into the church, so something I don't see in a lot of churches, is actually places around that they're promoting what they do. So there's something here about confirmation, there's something here about how to pray, there's something here about getting married, there's something here for the kids. I actually don't see that a lot in a lot of churches I visit, so I think that's really beautiful to see them sharing what they do and the life of the community here. So that's really, really beautiful. I think seeing the way that Dan's doing his surveys and sort of listening to the broader community is really great to sort of see, well, this is your place. Whether you come here on a Sunday or not, this is your church. How could we work together? How can we be together? How can this place serve you as part of the village, and vice versa? So that's really special to watch that, and seeing people come through and seeing the space. There's been some real wonder here, and people have not been inside before. So it's great just to throw the doors open.
Now I've got to talk to you about your accents, because it's not an English one, which is fine. So where are you originally from, and why are you finding yourself here in England?
Well, I grew up in Sydney, Australia, so I was there till I was about the age 30, and then I got made redundant from a job, and I had some money in my back pocket, and I thought, right, I'm going travelling. About time I do some travelling. So I came over to England because my dad's originally from Liverpool.
Okay.
He went out in the 60s and started travelled all over Europe and all over the British Isles. And then towards the end of the first year here, I met someone, and I thought, I'm going to hang around and see where this goes. And so we've still together, got married, bought a house, all of that, and made Liverpool our home.
Yeah.
So
I like to ask questions about accents because I speak to people from all around the world, and I love how they find themselves somewhere. But the obvious question I do need to ask, today's quite warm. For me personally, it's roasting hot. I'm going to make an assumption here that this probably feels a little bit more towards home.
This is quite pleasant.
Yes.
I have been away a long time now, nearly 19 years. So I have come somewhat accustomed to the first summer I was here. I kept waiting for it to warm up, and then I got to September and thought, okay, right, that's set the tone. I now know what to expect. So I've never been disappointed ever since.
I think if we set our sights low, sometimes we can be pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely.
But then again, you see the British weather, you never know what's going to happen.
I quite enjoy it because I do a lot more activities outdoors here in this country than I ever did back home.
Yeah.
Because you can go hiking and not roast to death and be eaten alive, So I live a lot more of my life outdoors in this country than I ever did back home.
Thank you. Warren for the Diocese of Liverpool. It's been a pleasure to meet you and chat to you today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great to be here.